Whenever marketing people feel that the value of a brand is going down, they repackage the brand. The content inside the packet remains the same. But there is a sheen which is built around it. There is a story. There is a certain narrative around that entire brand. And this is supposed to give the brand a new kind of acceptability. Today, I'm going to speak about how Pakistan has repackaged and rebranded Jihad. This is secular jihad, and it is made in Pakistan. Friends, recently, Hemant Lohia, Director General Prisons of Jammu and Kashmir, was killed by his domestic servant. And people following his social media posts said that it all pointed to him being mentally unbalanced. Now, the issue here is different. While people did give out various theories as to why he would have done something like that, he was supposed to be violent, he was supposed to have massive mood swings, but the TRF, the resistance group, a terror outfit, stepped in and took responsibility. They said that our struggle against the occupiers will continue, and we will continue to target senior people from India, be they army officers or police officers, bureaucrats, etc. Now, before I come to the TRF, I would like to tell you what this entire phenomena is. And for that, I have to take you back to the time when the Russians invaded Afghanistan. It all starts there. When Russians invaded Afghanistan, it was General Zia-ul-Haq, the military dictator of Pakistan, who went to the Americans and said that, hey, this is the correct time. This is the time. If you support me, if you give me money, if you give me weapons, I promise to make Afghanistan Russia's Vietnam. Now, this was something that had been hurting the Americans for a long time. They knew that their embarrassment, their humiliation in Vietnam was largely due to the Soviets. The Soviets had supported the Viet Cong with weapons, with training, with money. And this was at the peak of the Cold War. For both the parties, the USSR on one side and the Americans and the West on the other side, would do anything to get one leg up. Now, recently, Zia-ul-Haq had hanged Pakistan's legally elected Prime Minister, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. And he was an international pariah. Zia-ul-Haq wanted to do something that would gain him acceptability. And he found that Afghanistan was the perfect ground. And this is actually in many ways the beginning of Pakistan's active interference in Afghanistan. Pakistani soil was used by the Americans to transport weapons, arms, men, ammunition inside Afghanistan. And Pakistan, in turn, after accepting money, radicalized an entire population. There was a time when Pakistan was a normal country. During the times of Ayub Khan, there were women riding scooters, there were women driving, there were pubs, there were bars, there were discotheques in Pakistan. Karachi had a nightlife. Before Zia-ul-Haq, with mad illusions of jihad and holy war, turned his own country upside down and started active recruitment from madrasas. Children as young as 11 and 12 were told and explained the meaning of jihad. Jihad as understood by General Zia-ul-Haq. The children were told that they had been born to carry out a holy war against the infidel. These kids grew up, they were trained, and they fought against Soviet forces in Afghanistan. Later on, many of them joined the Taliban. A lot of them were initially from the refugee camps in and around Peshawar, essentially Pashtuns. But later on, the Punjabis joined in, and so did other ethnicities. An entire jihad industry was created to target the Russians in Afghanistan. In 1989, the Russians went back to the USSR, and very soon there was no USSR. It was Russia all over again. The USSR had broken up into many pieces. Pakistan still retained that capability of sending terrorists into another country. And these terrorists were sent to Kashmir. But that happened later. In Kashmir, there were few things going on. The election in 1987-88 was the time when Kashmiris felt disgruntled because they felt that New Delhi had intervened in Kashmiri elections. They said that a fraud had been perpetrated upon the people of Kashmir, that the elections were rigged. I don't know if the elections were rigged or not, but the fact of the matter is, elections during those times were rigged everywhere in India, and Kashmir was no exception. I remember as a young man reading about it in the newspapers, about elections being rigged in UP, in Bihar, in Rajasthan, in South India, in the west of India, everywhere. There was no state in India where elections were not rigged. It was only in Kashmir that a certain section of society picked up the gun. Now, why did that happen? There is a story about a man called Yusuf Shah who fought those elections for the seat of an MLA from an area called Amira Qadal. He lost the elections and, blaming India, joined a terror outfit. Yusuf Shah took the name of Sayyid Salahuddin and he created the Hizbul Mujahideen. Later on, he became the chairman of the United Jihad Council. Now, there is a story here. While this is happening, the major terror group in Kashmir is something called the JKLF, the Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front. And what JKLF seeks is an independent Kashmir. The Pakistani ISI loves the idea of the JKLF. And they give it money, they give it weapons, they give it training. During those times, the line of control was not what it is today. Today, if you go there, you'll find barbed wire fences, miles and miles upon miles, hundreds of miles long, armed patrols, laser beams, movement sensors, drones. It is a 21st century line of control. But during those dark days, there was nothing. I was posted along the line of control. I was there in Punch. And I was responsible for a very small part of the line of control. I was a company commander there. And the line of control was identified as 3 trees here, 2 stones here, and a small stream there. Align them and you get the line of control. That was our understanding of the line of control. Yes, there was a map, but on ground, this is what we had. There were no pillars. There was nothing. Today, it's a very different world. During those days, the JKLF ruled the roost. They had a very strong sense of politics, and they had a very strong militant wing. They started targeting everybody who was associated with the center, everybody associated with Indian power. The JKLF grew from strength to strength. But one day, something very strange happened. The JKLF said, we are fighting for a free Kashmir, but there is Kashmir also in Pakistan, and we'd like that Kashmir also to be freed. Now, obviously the ISI did not like this. The ISI had in mind very clearly Indian Kashmir, not the Kashmir that Pakistan was occupying, what we know as POK. And very soon, disenchantment set in. The ISI had the JKLF leadership murdered, exiled, beaten. They broke the back of the JKLF. And in all this, there was a lesson for the Pakistani ISI. And the lesson was, you cannot leave the liberation of Kashmir to the Kashmiris. It has to be a pan-Islamic movement. And this gave birth to names like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Hizbul Mujahideen, Al-Faran, Allah's Tigers, and a little-known woman militant outfit called Dukhtaran-e-Millat. Now, what is common between all these names? What is common? These are all pan-Islamic names. No name has a mention of Kashmir. And therein lay the secret. This was Pakistan trying to say that we created the United Nations of Jihad in Afghanistan. We got everybody to fight in Afghanistan. We can get those same people to fight here. But you can't say Kashmir. That will not attract jihadis. You must give it a pan-Islamic flavor. And this is exactly what happened. When I was there along the line of control, we had Pashtuns coming in from Afghanistan. We had Palestinians. We had Sudanese. we had Lebanese, we also had some Chinese coming in. This later on stopped. And then you had only Pakistanis coming in. Post which India built, as I mentioned, the fence. And there were various grids, 1, 2, 3, which would stop infiltration from Pakistan. But the damage had been done. And Pakistan started actively funding various organizations and various heads of organizations for jihad in India. One such person was Hafiz Saeed, the head of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. Now, Hafiz Saeed's headquarters are in Muridke, a small town not 45 minutes away from Lahore. Maulana Masood Azhar, the head of Jaish-e-Mohammed, is based out of a place called Bahawalpur in Pakistani Punjab. And Sayyid Salahuddin, the same Yusuf Shah who had lost the elections from Amira Qadal, is based out of Muzaffarabad, and sometimes he lives in Islamabad. I had started saying this in 2016 when I initially entered media, and I had started going to various talk shows and debates on television. I first started saying this, what is the meaning of this name Lashkar-e-Taiba? Can somebody explain to me in Hindi and English? What is the meaning of the name Jaish-e-Mohammed? What does it mean? What is the meaning of the name Hizbul Mujahideen? And slowly the chorus grew. So there were two things happening here. One, we on media and social media started saying that what are these names? So there is a greater jihad happening. It is pan-Islamic in nature. This is not about the freedom of Kashmir. This is about Pakistan weaponizing political Islam and causing chaos inside India. Unknown to us, the Indian Foreign Office was making all efforts outside in the diplomatic domain. And after a few years, Pakistan landed up in the FATF grey list. So where does that find us? What is this secular jihad about? Pakistanis understood one thing, that the world post 9/11 has changed. It took some time to change, but the world had changed. The narrative of the world had changed irrevocably because America had been hurt. 42,000 Indian lives lost in Kashmir did not matter very much. But when those planes slammed into the World Trade Center in New York, the world changed. I wish the world had changed earlier. But as we say in Hindi, der aaye durust aaye. And then slowly the narrative started changing. And Pakistan felt that it could no longer use radical Islam as a tool to fight in Kashmir. Just like radical Islam could unite jihadis in Kashmir, it could also be used as a double-edged sword by the Indians to tell the world that this is global jihad happening in Kashmir. Pakistan could not allow that because one of the blowbacks was FATF, amongst others. So Pakistan took a series of steps. It started cracking down on terror outfits inside Pakistan. It did not do so when Parvez Musharraf was attacked by Pakistan Air Force personnel. This is surprising. They claim to be a professional force, the Air Force, the Navy and the Pakistan Army. But the fact of the matter is, it was the Pakistani Air Force personnel, serving personnel of the PAF, who actually carried out an attack against the army chief, Parvez Musharraf, in order to kill him, as a response to the Lal Masjid intervention, which Parvez Musharraf had authorized. Now, having said that, what happened was that slowly the radicalization of Pakistani society was complete, and it had been 30 years in the making. But when FATF came knocking at Pakistan's doorstep, Pakistan knew it was game over. Send Hafiz Saeed to jail, crack down on jihadi outfits, and give it a different flavor. As I said, a marketing ploy. So the Pakistanis did what any top self-respecting marketing professional would do. They rebranded the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and in Kashmir, they called it the Resistance Front. Doesn't it sound glamorous and grand? The Resistance Front. A bunch of youngsters, ideologically charged, resisting India. That was the glamour that Pakistan was trying to sell. That glamour failed because nobody bought their nonsense any longer and nobody buys it today. But the fact of the matter is, the resistance front is active in Kashmir. It kills, and sometimes with impunity. But terror levels in Kashmir are going down. This is a case study in which Pakistan actually managed to secularize terrorism in Kashmir by telling people that the resistance front had nothing to do with radical Islam, it had nothing to do with religion at all. Pakistan had tried this before. Pakistan actually said that the Kargil war was fought by quote-unquote mujahideen. It was only later when Pakistan or Pakistani army refused to take the dead bodies of their officers and men that the world came to know and that the Pakistani army was exposed. This was Pakistan's way of telling a lie and then telling another to cover up the previous lie. A lot of Pakistani friends say that, terrorism is a thing of the past and Pakistan realizes that it has to join the international mainstream. It cannot support terrorism any longer. Whenever there is a terror incident in the valley, Pakistanis will say we have nothing to do with it. This is nothing new. They've been saying we have nothing to do with it for a very long time. Except for this time, they think that they're telling the truth. I'm talking about Pakistani TV anchors, I'm talking about Pakistani journalists. They actually think that their army is no longer supporting terrorists. But let us assume that the Pakistani army is no longer supporting terrorists. And I'm saying academically, let us assume. These things don't disappear with the turn of the switch or the flip of the switch. That's not how it happens. Pakistan spent 30 to 40 years radicalizing an entire population. They radicalized their own population because they got money from the Americans to fight the Afghan jihad, number one, and number two. After 9/11, the Americans again came through Pakistan. Pakistan took more than $35 billion to facilitate America's war against terror in Afghanistan. Pakistan became a conduit from 1979, a conduit for Kalashnikovs, all kinds of weapons and drugs. And this was the fallout of the war. But that was a small fallout. The bigger fallout for Pakistan was entire generations had been radicalized. And this is the problem that Pakistan faces here. Take a look at what Imran Khan says on the floor of the National Assembly as Prime Minister.
एक हुआ जी उसामा बिन लादेन को इन्होंने अमेरिकन ने आके एबटाबाद में मार दिया, शहीद कर दिया. उसके बाद क्या हुआ? सारी दुनिया ने हमें गालियां निकाली.
Friends, this is Imran Khan calling Osama bin Laden a shaheed. All of you have seen this video. But this video is leading to another video. I want you to hear what the former President and Chief of Army Staff of the Pakistan Army, General Parvez Musharraf, had to say about terrorists.
लश्कर तैयबा को तो सबसे बड़ा सपोर्टर मैं हूँ और मुझे मालूम है कि वो मुझे पसंद करते हैं, लश्कर तैयबा वाले और ये जमातुद दावा वाले. तो वाई आप भी उनको पसंद करते हैं, वो आपको पसंद करते हैं, आप उनको पसंद करते हैं. मैं उनको पसंद करता हूँ, बिल्कुल. आप हाफिज सईद साहब को पसंद करते हैं आप. Yes.
So here is a sitting Prime Minister who calls Osama bin Laden a shaheed or a martyr on the floor of Pakistan's National Assembly, their parliament. The worst terrorists in the world who have lookout circulars, who are on every country's watch list, who have killed hundreds and thousands of people, have been projected as heroes inside Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the real problem that the world is facing. It is not that Pakistan has terrorists. It is not only the fact that Pakistan exports terrorism. This is a very small part. All this is manageable, my friends, but what is not manageable is 220 million people have been radicalized. How do you deal with 220 million radicalized people? Children in madrasas, people from middle class families, people who are educated, people who have seen the world. Everybody is looking for that small little spot in heaven, in Jannat. They've been led to believe that this earth is but a transit lounge. You're here for a little while, it does not matter. But your real place is there. How do you convince such a people that life is beautiful, this earth is beautiful? Pakistan did this to itself. Now, Pakistanis have been blaming the Americans for their current state. They say that America left us high and dry. I often tell my Pakistani friends, when they say that America has let down Pakistan. How has America let down Pakistan? You accepted money. And for that money, you rendered services. And the risks were yours. You voluntarily, very voluntarily, radicalized an entire population. All these suicide bombers who are killing people in Pakistan, all these people who are actually attacking Pakistani army and Pakistani security forces, they would have been very, very small, very young during the first Afghan Jihad. I'm talking about 1979 to 89. How did that woman who blew herself up and killed those Chinese in Karachi, she belonged to an educated family. Who told her that it was okay to blow yourself up and kill people? Who told the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan terrorists that it was okay to kill soldiers or kill innocent people in the market? Who told them it was okay? It was Pakistan who taught them, because Pakistan thought that they would rear and breed these snakes, and these snakes would bite only their neighbors. There has been a fallout in Indian Kashmir as well. But the fact of the matter is, Indian Kashmir is largely stable. And this entire thing about secularization of jihad is just another Pakistani ploy to ensure that something or the other keeps on happening in Kashmir. Pakistan does not want the responsibility, but it wants to keep funding jihad in Kashmir. In finance, we call it an arm's length transaction. This is what secular jihad is all about, an arm's length transaction. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you again next week. Till then, have a great weekend.